Hello, everybody. Glad to have you for another episode. Nowadays, we'd be getting deep into the NBA playoffs right now, but with COVID and extending the season out, we're starting the NBA playoffs now. And one of the reasons why I love the NBA playoffs is that it really shows organizational alignment to mission and purpose. Remember from previous episodes, I think weird. But it's really amazing to go and see how coaches go and manage games and how players perform under the added stress of a playoff atmosphere. Each level of the playoffs, from the opening round to currently the conference semifinals, onto the conference finals and then the NBA finals, each one brings an added level of stress, physicality, and requirements for precision in performance. And I've talked about this in previous episodes, the aspect of leaders who are working to align organizations to mission and purpose, that they go and start practicing stressful situations, adding that aspect to performance when it's not needed. During the regular season of basketball, of 82 games, NHL hockey is the same, baseball, 162 games. You can kind of mail it in, so to speak, on certain games, ones against lesser teams. Good coaches and good teams and great teams actually take some of those times to make certain that they can go and try new things that might work in the playoffs and to test themselves under certain levels of stress. And the games in the regular season against the other top teams are measuring sticks. Those are really fun to watch in the regular season because there's added intensity. There's more effort and energy put into those two games. But the playoffs are another matter. And to me, my opinion is that teams that go and practice putting stress on themselves, stress on the system during the season, to be able to go and see where there are weaknesses, where things break down, who you can trust in certain situations, and who may need a little bit of help, or who you may not end up being able to trust as the playoffs go on. All that can get evaluated by solid leaders who work to align organizations, because it's not exactly the easiest thing during the long grind of a season to be able to get players who are playing back-to-backs or coming into cities at 2, 3, 4 in the morning to be able to go and play the next night, to be able to bring that type of energy when they may not exactly be at their best. But that's exactly when stress needs to be put on, to be able to go and identify where weaknesses are at in communication, in creativity, in accountability. How are coaches and players talking with one another? How are players working out conflicts, things that aren't quite working right, so they can collaboratively come to a solution that can be applied at the next level. Now, we've all been through this prolonged, extended stress environment with COVID-19. From having to go and bring employees out of the office and into their homes, to furloughing a lot of workers because businesses basically that required personal interaction no longer had it, and how to be able to go and lead and handle processes in this whole environment, to think new again. And I've talked about that in previous episodes as well. To understand the great things that have been done in your teams and by your organization over the last 15 months. You've seen that type of stress come through. And I hate to tell y'all, but the next level of stress is coming. Things are not going to go just back to normal. There's going to be hybrid work environments. There are going to be new demands put on by consumers and employees alike to be able to go and expand upon the things that y'all cobbled together during the pandemic that are going to challenge processes and procedures and organizations again. So an organization like Target, you may have remembered the interview I did with John Mulligan on the podcast, as well as last month, the Lunch and Learn webinar with John Mulligan and John Banovitz, the CTO of 3M, talking about that stress, especially at Target, and how John Mulligan talked about how if they did not go and put stress on the system over the last 4-5 years to be able to take care of their logistics and supply chain problems, they would not have been able to handle COVID if COVID came earlier. John and his teams were forward looking to be able to go and see where they had weaknesses and breakdowns in the process to be able to make sure that they could make their mission live and breathe of allowing families to have joy from Target. It's time for you to be able to go and open up that circle of the wagons that you did to be able to survive and then keep your head above water, and some of you thrive. The next stage is coming. How are you going to go and address it? Hopefully, if you're an aligned leader, you're going to pose the question not only to your leadership, but to the employee base overall and say, what have we learned in the last 15 months? What have customers been asking for, but we haven't been able to provide, and they've been giving us grace because of COVID that they're going to want and need? Where are we not meeting our vision and mission? And where can we go about meeting that same vision and mission? And how do we go about it? The last 15 months has been a thing to celebrate, to be able to make it through and find new areas to be able to go and support customers and meet that mission. This is a great opportunity to look forward to the playoffs. When the intensity is there, you found kinks. You found weaknesses. Stress test those now and see how they react. What you need to support them, if they're still needed. And make yourself ready to continue striving forward, even if the times are not stressful or as stressful as you think they might have been. Look to be able to get that type of communication, creativity, leadership, teamwork, development, empowerment, like it's still that stressful situation, but under the guise of something more positive than keeping your head above from COVID. To be able to handle when that stress does come and continue practicing it and celebrating it and executing on it. Your employees will be able to go and be energized at performing at this playoff stress level. They'll see how they're beating the competition, how they're meeting the mission and satisfying their customers, and they're going to want more. Because they're breaking out of the daily drudgery that was pre-COVID and they've been turned on to looking at possibilities and making changes and meeting dynamic needs. And now you can turn it into positive. You're going to have some issues yourself. Recognize that. Ask for help. In those stressful situations, we all have our resiliency tasked, right? Stretched, strained. You may find some weaknesses in your ability to lead and execute, and that's okay. Be open with your staff and your fellow leaders, and open up saying that you're struggling a little bit, because they may be strong in these areas and help you, and you can help them when you're weak. Well, I'm sorry, you can help them when they're weak and you're strong. You get to see, as you've looked back at COVID and what you see going ahead, on how the added stress did affect you and can affect you. That's fun, because you can see how you're growing and the impact of your added leadership capacity on the rest of the team and the rest of the organization. So as you look at the NBA playoffs, or if you're an NHL fan, the NHL playoffs, or you can see if you're a baseball fan, even if you're not a sporting fan, maybe you're an individual fan, like of tennis or golf. You may have seen it in the Women's U.S. Open, or the recent PGA Championship with Phil Mickelson winning. How Sunday, and being able to just go and manage every single shot with the stress involved. Take a look at the different things that you enjoy and how your fans, people that you like to watch, handle stress, how you can handle such stress. Can make that connection and see how it can impact you. Thanks for taking the time to listen. I really appreciate it. Got some feedback from a listener, actually. They were on their way down a road trip to Texas, and they said that I was their voice going through Texas. They were listening to the podcast, and they loved it. And I was so appreciative of that they really enjoyed some of the things that we were talking about. So keep bringing that feedback in. If you like the podcast, please give us a positive rating. It will really help out a lot. Until next week, have a great one. See you soon. Cheers.